everyone, this is Ili from EverTrader greeting you, and today I have a great live interview with our trader, EverTrader. And I'm going to let me introduce him a little bit because this is a Filip who has successfully passed EverTrader Evaluation, and not just that evaluation, has even had a payout. And he's going to share some of his interesting know-how with you at the moment. So I think today's conversation is definitely going to be fruitful. And I had a chance to catch up with Filip a little while ago, and I think you absolutely have a lot to look forward to today. So I welcome Filip here. Hi, Filip.
Thank you for the welcome. I'm Filip, originally from Ranis, next to the Olomouc. Now I've been in Brno for a while, so I made my way here. A bit of a nice trip, at least I'll look around here in Budejovice. And I guess what I would just say about myself, more about the trading, I've been a little bit interested in it for a while now, over 10 years since high school, and it's kind of my life vision, I guess, that I would like to trade and appreciate my finances like that. And so in the last few years I've started to get a little bit more into it and a little bit more in depth. And now in EverTrader I am more successful here, and it's already showing some results.
I'm very happy about that, of course. And I'd certainly be interested, not just me I guess, but our viewers as well, if you could tell us how big of an account you're trading on with EverTrader, which variant you've chosen.
I started from scratch with $10,000, and for me it's just perfect as a start. The fee isn't that much. It's not my first account that I've actually started. So I figured that starting at the beginning is the way to go, and it's gradually being increased.
That's great. I mentioned at the beginning that you've even gotten a payout from us. Are you willing to share with us how much you've been paid?
And I actually managed to make that 10% again. There was a little over $4.
Well, that's beautiful. Congratulations on that. And of course, keep it up. And if you'd rate it, because you've indicated something here that it's not quite your first account anymore, why did you choose EverTrader now? What attracted you there? What did you like about it?
So I know a friend originally told me about it. I already knew that there were some funded accounts and I was already thinking about it. And I actually saw Dominik Kovarik, who I've been following for a while, and I suspected that he was a bit of a trusted person here. And I didn't have as a reason not to believe that it wouldn't be as it's actually described.
Again, I am very pleased. I totally agree. The answer is pretty much the same, that the rank company reprimands are definitely there, and we're happy to continue to convince you. And why did you, if you were thinking about it, you mentioned it a little bit, but we can elaborate a little bit more on why you got into this trading. What made you do it? You must have had some sort of background to it, right, or something.
For me? Yeah, right. I guess it's kind of my life's mission, or mission, life's goal, because I've been into international relations and economics and stuff since high school. And here I see this as a kind of, I would say, unrestricted freedom, in that when you're investing, you're kind of moving around in this international information, economic information, everything. You can actually turn it into some money as well. And at the same time, I like the fact that it's unlimited here, that you can start from that $10,000 account to $1 million account and still do the same thing. So if you learn how to do this thing properly, I think there's unlimited possibilities then.
Well, you said you've been kind of peaking since high school, and what were your early days like?
Completely minor. I know the first account I opened was actually with a broker that offered some free balance. I opened that, tried it out, and unfortunately it didn't work out. And the last time it kind of went on for a couple of years, until I would say maybe the last 3-4 years I'm taking it a little bit more in depth. And I'm trying. I've already given you some of my resources.
You said 3-4 years or so ago, somehow you're just taking it more seriously. I talk to you, I understand you're taking it quite seriously, which I like, the analysis and all that. So 3-4 years now, you've just been so much more intense.
Let's say a little more in-depth, intensive, some analysis. I had some technical analysis, exactly. I was not able to do that at all before. You could say I had a bare chart, a blank chart, and not knowing at all why it was reflecting there or doing that. Now I think I'm a little bit better at it.
This could be seen as, for example, what the biggest mistake you may have made in all this time. So one of those mistakes would probably be what you just mentioned, that you didn't do the charts and stuff like that. But is there something like that that you're like, geez, so that was probably the biggest mistake I've ever made overall in trading?
Biggest mistake? It was the mistakes when I tried to do one technical analysis only and ignored the news altogether, which always surprised me terribly, or just skipping one or the other analysis. And then probably the biggest mistakes for me are just following other traders stupidly, copying some of their signals and just not having my own head. And then I think that's what I've always paid the biggest price for.
It's so dreamy, how it looks everywhere, so easy and nice, and you want to copy their style, but you don't make the background your own background.
Like someone comes up with an analysis, I take it as mine, and unfortunately,
I see. So I suppose that can certainly be considered as a kind of a mistake of the past, perhaps. And I suppose today we'll get to the fact that you're doing it differently. So how did you get to actually learn how to trade? I know you said you're still learning, which of course people who say that, you can see they want to keep pushing themselves. So if we have somewhere to move to, somewhere to grow and so on. Anyway, how did you learn? Did you take any classes, or did you explicitly teach yourself, like self-taught somewhere?
there were some courses here and there, but probably more like from the internet. I have a couple of friends that I've been discussing it with, so some of the information I've been putting together gradually started to make sense to me, you know, like from the technical analysis, so let's say more fundamentally the news and stuff like that into it. I guess you always do your own thing depending on what you're after. And the technical analysis, a lot of it was, you could say there's a lot of information put together, and I took the ones that just suit me the most.
It's great, isn't it? It's cool either way. So before you went into EverTrader, I don't know if we mentioned this, were you trading directly, explicitly in any of your own accounts, that you already had an account and experience with your own account at that point?
It wasn't exactly active, but I already had my accounts open. I had tens of thousands of crowns there. I don't think I was even in the red overall, but it was still kind of, I would say, like scared on my part that when I opened a trade I didn't really know what it could do, why it could do it, and I was still a little bit worried about it. And now I'm still a little bit scared, but I know exactly where to close those trades, when to open them, when it's turning, why it's turning, and so on.
I guess that ties in with my next question. I guess that's your strategy that makes you not so afraid anymore, and that actually makes you trade the way you trade.
I have to say that maybe EverTrader has helped me a lot in my strategy, because there are some boundaries, some rules that I didn't follow before, or it's hard to learn them, to master them, and to do them regularly, which I think is probably one of the biggest keys to successful trading, is to follow some rules that you set up and follow them every day. Every single trade, kind of try to do it accordingly. And that's what's helped me just these last, well, before that I had actually, this is the third account that I've opened like this. So gradually kind of get the hang of it, already make it a rule and just go by it, you know.
That's great. I'm glad it was mentioned that EverTrader helped you keep those boundaries. That's definitely good to hear.
Mm-hmm.
And what was your strategy or trading style that you established when you actually successfully managed to get through that evaluation? What was the basis or the principle that you were trading on? I mean, so if you were already in the EverTrader program, how did your strategy, your setup specifically work to get through that evaluation? That's where the boundaries are set, so you keep them, I mean, to keep those boundaries.
Get about the size of the positions I want to open. I would start and just stick accordingly, not rushing into some bigger trade stupidly, for example, and stuff like that. And that's maybe what was a problem for me before, when I thought it was going to go up, or buying some bigger positions and stuff like that. And here I've kind of just created rules that I've started to follow. And that's probably helped me the most of all, that there wasn't a day where I was opening any other trade other than, or like completely, how do I put this? I mean, just completely based on something other than what I actually did every day, over and over again. And so if I go to that, it actually starts with me sitting down in the evening looking at just like what happened and kind of trying to predict what's going to happen the next day. And actually the view of it, I try to then get up and look for some trades that actually relate to what I've already set up the day before. That it's not actually like before that I opened the chart and all of a sudden I started looking for something that might not even be there, and trying to just open random trades and just hoping that it's going to come to that plus eventually.
And I understand correctly, you do some analysis, let's say the day before, and let's say like a prediction of how it might go according to that analysis that you have. And when you get up and it's not at the point that you set, you don't actually open the trade because it would actually be risky, because you would just be hoping and it wouldn't be what you were looking for.
There isn't the exact point I wanted to reach. I know that let's say I think the dollar is just going to weaken, so the next day I'm waiting for some of those currency pairs to get to a point that's interesting to me as an entry point, and through actually that technical analysis I would say there are more of those points already, and that's where time matters, that's where it's at, and that's how I pick those trades and enter them accordingly. I open most of those trades sometime in the morning hours.
It's that again. That's pretty interesting. Now you mentioned the dollar here, so what are the markets that you focus on most often?
Well, it's the dollar. It is related to everything and is mostly traded, and also on some European markets and also on American, Europe and so on. But today it's mostly about the dollar. There is maybe, I say 10%, 15% of the currency pairs other than just the dollar.
So that's your favorite now. How do you like the app and the trading journal? Do you work with them like very actively? Do they help you in any way?
So, of course, it made my job easier that I just don't have to write it down in some Excel or something. So I can come right here and see the trades that I did right and wrong, and I can go back to it at any time. So that's a lot of time that I've spent on it before. It's a simplification.
I think time is also a very important commodity in today's world.
Well, I would say that I didn't really want to write down all the trades and stuff like that. Here it's all written down right away, and I can go back to it at any time and go back and say that was not good, that was bad.
Great. And if you were to evaluate that, since you've been trading with us for some time, what has your participation in EverTrader given you so far? What has it given you?
So far, so good. It has given me some kind of discipline, I'd say, mostly. With the trading, it used to be just one day was like this, another day was like that, and now it's like I just look at it every night before I trade, and I just get up at a certain time in the morning, so I look at it before the European markets open and stuff like that, and kind of like a regularity here in that. I just think that for me it was quite crucial to just look for trades somewhere where they're not, but I do it here with some sort of order and discipline.
I just have another question for you. What is your message to those aspiring traders? You've already kind of outlined the message there.
A little bit, obviously finding that discipline and stuff like that. But for me it was always to make as many mistakes as possible and learn from them, because you never do anything right or properly for the first time. And even in this case it wasn't right for the first time. And it takes time and that decision to just commit to it, because if someone doesn't succeed once or twice, it doesn't mean that 10 years from now they can't be successful. So the most important thing for me is probably the perseverance. I have to say that there were a lot of trades or beginnings that I made that were wrong, and just when I thought it was all okay, that I was somehow managing, something bad came up again. And so it just goes on and on until you get it right. I guess I would just say some of that order and that discipline always in it.
You said it so nicely, like the moment when you start to believe and become too sure, something comes up, and if you give up at that moment, you wouldn't go back to it and learn from that mistake. So learning from that mistake, doing that analysis, those are kind of the key points that stuck in my head. Really keep those boundaries in place and giving yourself that space.
For example, it just happened to me recently that I started trading. I made a few trades right in the beginning of that trading period, and I was like, great, I can do it all. And then all of a sudden there was a reversal where I closed a bad trade, I mean, it wasn't bad. I closed it in profit, but then it was still going my way, so I could have made maybe 5 times the profit. And then I started blaming myself, and then the next day I just made a bad trade and left it unnecessarily long. And again, that trade actually lost what I made. But again, you have to persevere and you have to learn that in some way, and the psyche and all that. And I would say psyche probably plays a major role for me now.
I think it's the word psychology and psyche, which have come up in probably every interview I've done so far, but I totally agree. I absolutely identify with you there, and I think that's really the key, that you have a great analysis.
Yeah.
But the moment that psyche gets in the way, you just described it absolutely beautifully right now. That situation of closing a trade at a profit, but you start blaming yourself in a completely unnecessary way, that there could have been more profit.
Yeah.
And you make the mistake of, let's say,
A very big
closing it
mistake.
too late when you know it's only the hope. It's not the analysis.
That's exactly what I was going to say now, that one really hopes.
Exactly. I really appreciate what you said here today, because you summed up the trading for what it is. Trading is not easy. It can bring us to our knees sometimes. But on the other hand,
Yeah.
if you can pick yourself up and, like you say, let go of that psyche, you'll learn.
Kind of like putting that psyche aside, but unfortunately, here I am learning to just not perceive it so much, and I think I have to work on it for some time. For example, like the trade I mentioned here earlier, I was really frustrated back then. I remember that really well.
And do you remember exactly what trade was it? I know
I
you
could
like
say,
the dollar, so maybe if you know specifically what the trade was.
I
caught you off guard.
I don't know right
only
now.
because I thought of it.
I don't remember exactly now, but I think it was the euro, the dollar actually. I remember I really hit a peak, but the next day, after I closed it in profit, it just kept going down. And the next day, unfortunately, it didn't continue. Oh well. And that was obviously just my fault. Well, unfortunately. But I tell myself that you don't go back to that. You've already closed those trades and you just have to move on. Even the trades, even the profitable ones, even the losing ones. You don't go back to that and you have to move on, you know. So I think that helped me and gave me at least a little bit of experience. So I don't think about it so much anymore. I don't feel so sad about it anymore, you know. I understand.
I understand that, of course, the percentage of losses, the percentage of successes, but more importantly, how big the trades are and what the specific strategy is, that's certainly where it comes in. But just so we don't end up like this, once something didn't work out,
negative,
you have just earned a payout, you continue with EverTrader, and if you see it like this after all this time trading, maybe you have already recommended it to someone, or you would recommend it to someone to say, yes, I can easily recommend it to you.
Yes, of course. Yeah, sure. Like I said, I've got friends around me even now, and so I'd love it if they could maybe trade with me or we could talk about it, right? They have their jobs too. I mean, I'm still working, but in the future it would be nice. I'm definitely going to pursue it like that, so I definitely recommend it to my friends. And so that was probably the most important thing here. Well, get some discipline, keep those emotions in check, and I think that's going to help a lot. You really have to stick to something. You don't have a boss over you. You just have these, like I said, I just have these boundaries that I've set up that you have to follow and you have to stick to them. Well,
I understand that. Anyway, I'm really glad you're still with us. I hope this isn't the last time we chat here, because we are always happy to meet our successful traders, whether it's online or in person. I really appreciate we have you here in person, because I think it's going to be...
I thought I'd at least take a little trip.
Our city is beautiful, so I believe that you will definitely enjoy your time with us and continue to enjoy your time with us, that you will have a good trading experience and that your business will flourish, and that EverTrader will again be a stepping stone for you, and you will be able to multiply this capital and these payouts will continue to grow for you.
I hope so too. I've actually already bought a bigger account, the 50,000, so
is there still room?
So I will start the evaluation process again. That's what I just want to mention that I like about EverTrader, that if you are successful, you build up the capital gradually, even if you have to buy up And the same thing with the profit sharing, actually. So I know that if it continues to be successful like this, I know that it can continue to grow well.
Well, again, we're very pleased, so we appreciate it, and thank you for the kind words. So it's definitely for the people who do not have that capital, who don't have that much capital, and as you say, they can just set for themselves how much they grow and then what capital they're going to be with.
Just start with some capital. I would say that a person who can lose, let's say, 10,000 crowns can lose, right? And if he should lose the 200,000, which is actually the basic account here, that's a little bit of a difference to learn on that. On that 2.5 or 200,000 is a bit of a difference. Well, it's not necessary to lose a lot of money, and I think it's only going to discourage people from continuing to invest.
I think this whole thing, this conversation here, is going to be a benefit and a motivation to all other traders. I think it was beautifully understood that the moment you can manage the risk and you can somehow really calm the psyche, you can put the psyche aside so that you can eventually make a living from trading in the future, which you actually mentioned here. And I'm hoping that you and I will meet here and you will say, yes, I have a job, but I trade for a living. So I'll certainly wish you well myself.
Well,
and if you think of anything else
we'll
you want to add, feel free to do so now.
Add something? I mean, for me it was just that I went into it thinking that I was going to make some mistakes, that I was just going to learn by making those mistakes, and I decided, well, I'm going to make as many mistakes as I can until I get it right. Well,
I think that's kind of the message we got across. Thank you so much for the interview, for being open, for really giving us information that can help other beginners, newbies, but I think at this point we can maybe even help the experienced traders who have been doing this for a long time. So thank you, Filip, for your time, your journey and your contribution, and we're glad to have you in EverTrader.
Thank you too.
Okay, thank you. So we're going to say goodbye for today and have a nice rest of the day from Czech Budejovice, Ili and Filip. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.